Yo, sitting here in Nevada and got the Bible, been reading it a little bit, and had some bananas. Went bananas this morning. Hello, YouTubers. Did a guy video and got a little bit of a reply back yesterday. And there was a question about the research and stuff. So, in that other video, the title is Opportunity. And the opportunity is to make money in trucking, specifically the passive side. Okay, so now we have the beeping. It'll do that for a second. This truck doesn't have the automatic shut off for the system, so it tells you it's going to turn the electric off with this sound. It's like Jeopardy. And there you have it. So that automatically turned off the switch. Some of the other trucks, the Freightliners, Western Star, and International, they actually have a main switch to turn it off. And this one just has the automated thing. So it's basically like when your vehicle goes into deep sleep. You know how like the European cars, you park and then like a month later the battery's dead? This system will not let the battery go dead after it's been off for a while, because I have phones and stuff plugged in. It's letting me know, hey, look, like I'm turning the power off. Right? I can turn the switch on, everything get power again, no problem. But anyway, that's another reason why you should buy a Kenworth or Peterbilt and always get the Cummins engine if you're buying a late model vehicle. And the Kenworths and the Peterbilts with around 100,000 miles, run that sucker to 500,000 and punt. You know what I mean? About 325, you'll have to do an overhead where they adjust the valves. If you have any, you could literally watch a YouTube video and like get a new gasket for the head and the valve cover, and you can do that yourself. Anyway, stay on point, Skip. Okay, so the recent situation with the out of service for non-English speaking drivers. There is a lot of non-English speaking drivers. On the coastlines, it's more than half, and in the interior of the country, you'll see about 25%. Okay, a quick Google search will show you that there's 3.4 million drivers. From what I've seen, the estimate is 4% or foreign drivers. Okay, but that does not take into account the people that come down from Canada. So Canada imports a lot of immigrants, and also the ones coming up from the south. There's a lot of immigrants with the B1 and B2 CDL equivalents, and because of NAFTA back in the day, they're allowed to drive and go across America. Well, this English thing means that those people, even though they're licensed in a different country, technically legal, if they can't read and write English, they're not eligible to drive. So a lot of a lot of drivers lose their ability to drive. Okay, because of that, the way the market is, the capacity dictates a lot of the freight rates. Okay, so during the pandemic, a lot of places shut down, and then everybody's like, oh, I gotta have my stuff right now. And speed of delivery pays more. That's why Red Team is more profitable. You think, one guy makes $80,000 and then another guy makes $80,000, but if you put them together, that truck will make $200,000 because the loads pay more to get there quicker. Okay, so the situation that we're in right now is at the southern border there is going to be a giant issue with having enough drivers to bring the freight, because these companies are not going to send out their equipment with some guy that they will for a little while, but they lose 5 or 6 trucks in the impound. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. They'll pay more money to have the freight hauled a different way. And once that kicks in, the capacity lowers because there's less drivers to drive the truck. It has nothing to do with the truck. It has nothing to do with the company. It has nothing to do with the freight. It does have a little bit to do with the volume of freight, which is pretty steady. I mean, we've been cut back for so long under the previous administration that all companies tightened up. So, they kept doing business as best they could, but times are tough, so there's no fluff. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the Trump administration, the first time around, a lot of people were buying dumb stuff, and the interest rates were low, and Hellcats. Okay, like, you don't need a Hellcat to drive across town to go to work and then come home and then try to get your kids in the back seat to go, get something to eat or go to school. You know what I mean? You can do that in a Honda Accord. You don't need a Hellcat. So nobody right now is doing that type of stuff, or very little. And then the companies are the same way. They're tightening up. They're getting rid of loose ends and stuff like that. There's not enough. There's not a lot of fluff. There's not a lot of overspending. And then we see the government, the largest employer, tightening up, laying people off, stuff like that. A lot of people losing their funding. Okay, so times are tough times, people tighten up. Been that way for a while, getting a little bit more serious in some areas. The trucking's actually paying more. Just like in the pandemic, the trucking is paying more. So the freight rates will go up because the volume where it's at, we're moving necessities. There's not a lot of moving fluff. Okay? Now, as the economy goes up, the fluff will go up. So that's where you'll get a lot of your smaller stuff or whatever. And then if there is a reason to expand military type stuff or whatever else like that, a lot of that stuff is manufactured in Texas. And there's a lot of go-between Chicagoland and Texas, Indiana and Texas, California and Texas, Seattle and Texas, New Jersey and Texas. You see what I'm saying? Like, Texas is a major player. So you got the capabilities because it's because they're using Mexican labor. Okay? So, like, they'll work for less. Okay? So in a factory, on a dock, running a forklift, whatever, I go a lot of places where I'm the only person speaking English. And because it says Unimex on the door, they think I'm Mexican. So when I start speaking in English, they're like, because their guard's down, they see me, and then, I got a little bit of a tan or whatever, so, but they'll see me and they'll be like, da 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 da. Anyway, here we are 9 minutes into this deal. Get to the point, Skip. Okay, location. All right, Unimex is on the border. Their specialty is, instead of cross-docking the freight, where, John Anderson backs into a dock, unloads the product that's bound for Mexico, and then here comes Jose, loads it onto his trailer, and then takes it into Mexico. That's a whole thing. It's called cross-docking, which this company does a lot of that as a third-party service. So they got the warehouses to do that. But what Unimex specifically does is drop the whole trailer and then hook up to another trailer that's already got freight that came up from Mexico. So I broker load down to like Laredo or McAllen, Far, whatever, drop the trailer fully loaded. They do the paperwork. There's a whole process that's got to be done. It's an extra hassle that everybody from America does not want to deal with, because it is, you'll go down there and you're trying to deliver, and then it's like it's a cluster F, and then everybody speaks Spanish, and your GPS don't work. So it's a nightmare for your average white boy trucker going down there. And then you got the uppity Mexican that sees the white boy struggling, and then they got like this. You're at the back of the line, okay, and it's not a racial thing. It's they all speak Spanish down there, so the fact that you speak English and don't understand them, you're the problem. You know what I mean? So you got to get in where you fit in, type of deal. Well, this company, you can drop it off, hook another trailer, and just go, and their local guys take care of that, right? So that's, I'm there for 30 minutes versus I'm there for 2 days. And try to find a load coming out of there, and the loads coming out of there don't pay nothing. If you don't know nobody, it's just like up here in the Northeast. The Northwest. I had to take this terrible load to get here because all the local people, they gobble up at the market, and we're seen as an outsider in the area. So they're not going to give us loads. You know what I mean? They're going to give it to their good old boys down on the border. They're going to give out international freight to them good old boys, the good old taco boys. And that's just the way it works, because it's easier for people with the same accent. You know what I mean? It's just basic human stuff, Anyway, so the reason why there's a great opportunity is because on the border, half, nationwide is probably 4%. And look at your real estate. You know what I mean? The same way, everything, the housing market could be down in the city that you live in. But then, like, in the neighborhood you live in, like, everybody wants to live there. So your property value might be going up while the whole city's going down the tubes. This in particular, Unimex, is a great deal because they ain't going nowhere, and they're actually warehouse type stuff. So you're stepping into this deal kind of like a private fleet. So the stuff that's staying on their trailers is the specifically high paying freight. Okay, they're gonna let this stuff, cross dock onto, Joe Blow that's heavy, wearing out the equipment, doesn't pay that much. And then the cream of the crop, they're going to put that on their private fleet. Well, this is a exceptional opportunity because, like if you go to like a big place like Hirschbach, Knight, Swift, Covenant, when you're the lease driver, they're giving their freight to the company drivers. That's good. And then the lease driver is getting the heavy stuff, the crappy loads, the low pay, because they don't have to pay the maintenance on the truck. So it is what it is. Well, down here, because they're, kind of Mexican, they're Texican. That's what they are. Texican. So they have these small fleets or whatever, and they give them the cream of the crop. They have some company trucks, but they have phased that out because of the maintenance woes and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you know the market on trucks and everything like that, see, they were set up where they were getting money on the back end from selling their trucks. So they would buy a new truck, run it for a while, flip the truck for a new one to keep low maintenance, because they think low miles means low maintenance. But the reality on a truck is 550,000 miles is where they start really having trouble. Okay, so if you get in a truck that's got 100,000 miles on it, and you run it to 500 and punt, that's where you sell the truck. That's where you get the money on the back end. And I don't know why a 300,000 mile truck and a 500,000 mile truck cost within $5,000 or $6,000 the same. It blows my mind. I mean, like, why would you buy a truck with 750,000 miles on it, what I mean, for $40,000? And then here's this other one over here that's got like 120,000 miles on it, and they want $55,000 for it, or whatever, you know what I mean? And but the key is you got to have the Cummins motor, you got to have PACCAR equipment, that's Kenworth or Peterbilt, and then you got to have the mileage. You buy at 100,000 miles and you sell before you hit 500,000 miles. That's the perfect. That's the at 300 to 350, you're going to have to do the overhead where you reset the valves. But that's the sweet spot. That's where the money's at. If you buy brand new, there's extra taxes, blah, blah, blah. Just because it's brand new don't mean it's sorted out. I've been in several brand new trucks that stop after stop after stop for months just to get it lined out. Like, I mean, they'll put it together just like forget a gasket. Yeah. Like, you're like, well, the wheel seal's leaking. You take it apart. It's like, okay, yeah, they just bolted that together and didn't put the gasket on there at the assembly line or whatever. Freightliner. Get a lot less of that with the Peterbilts made in Texas and the Freightliners made in Wisconsin, or your Freightliners and your Western Stars manufactured in Mexico. The Volvos, you just want to stay away from that because they're owned by China, and fuck China. You know what I mean? So anyway, the opportunity is to they just need drivers. They got some trucks and stuff like that. However, where I'm at, I've been down here driving as a W-2 driver. They put me in various trucks. This is actually a lease truck owned by somebody that doesn't even work at Unibex. I've never even met the guy, never even talked to the guy or nothing. But I'm a W-2 employee at Unibex. Unibex does all the office work. So you got to have your authorities and compliance in line. You got to be able to transact. So that's all your business stuff, your EINs and all that kind of stuff, your banking and all that. You got to be able to file your taxes and all that, which is a big deal. Pay your driver, blah, blah. Then you pay your driver and all that. Then you got to have the, you got to be able to collect. So like factoring, a lot of if you go out and get your own authority, some of these places like Walmart, they'll wait 6 months to pay you for a load. And you got to have your cash flow and all that. So like, they like your fuel discounts. This company gets like a $1 a gallon off on your fuel. So you're saving on fuel. And then the corporate rate for insurance. Insurance is very expensive. So by operating under their authority, you're going to save 30% in your overhead. Okay, now if I hire someone to be my dispatch, to be my factoring, and all that kind of stuff, all the back office, my compliance, do my taxes, I need a payroll lady, and all this kind of stuff, then I got to try to collect from a corporation called Walmart. You know what I mean? And I'm doing several loads a week. I don't have no contracts, so I'm going off the spot market. So if the market's up, hey, cool. If the market's down, I'm screwed, out of business. And that's what they do. They boom the market so everybody buy a truck. Then they drop the bottom out of it. That way everybody loses their business and they're left holding the bag of this truck that ain't worth nothing. We're coming to the end of that and we're fixing to boom again. The industry's done it. It's what they do. It's like watching the tide go in and out. If you're patient and you got a 30-year timeline or 3 generations, you know what I mean? So like I've lived through this repeatedly. So the opportunity here that I was talking about earlier is I know 2 different people that have bought trucks and they're working here and everything, and they saved their money up and bought another truck, and they had a family member, relative, whatever, that had been driving somewhere else, because you need 2 years experience, right, to be on the cheap insurance. So they're like, hey, I'm going to drive this other truck. Let me send Johnny down here to drive this truck. And they go through and hire on to Unibex as a W-2 driver. So they work for Unibex as a driver, but they're in your truck. And you're in your other truck doing your thing. And this truck's going in and doing. And then the truck gets paid a certain amount. And in that settlement sheet, it shows all the deductions and blah, 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 this and that, everything, all the way down to, I take this sheet and hand it to my tax guy once every quarter, and it's all handled. And it works out to about 35 cents a mile to the truck after you prorate for maintenance and breakdowns and buy another truck and blah blah. So you're looking at, you're paying your dude like 60 cents. Your back office and compliance and everything is costing you like, I don't know, 35 cents. You know what I mean? And this flat rate power only, let's say it's $1.50, which is, I think it's more than that. Plus you got your fuel surcharge stuff. And the bottom line is, without doing anything and somebody else driving this truck, you're going to make 35 cents a mile. Okay. The thing about that is, a lot of places you go, like if you talk to somebody, you talk to them about building a small fleet, like I do some guys that did it over at TLI out of Little Rock, Arkansas. And he had 11 trucks over there. Well, his problem was, like, he wouldn't get no fuel discount. And then they do a lot of runs that are just short hopping. You know what I mean? So this dude's truck's out here making 7 deliveries a week, and he's only moving 2,800 miles. Well, that's a lot different than moving 3,600 miles. You know what I mean? The more mileage goes up, the more the percentage you glean of profit, because you're doing a higher revenue. So you got your fixed costs, like you know how much your truck payment is, you know how much your insurance for the month and all this kind of stuff is your fixed cost. And your variable cost is like, did I have to buy a tire? How much was fuel? Tolls, stuff like that, right? So that varies based on mileage. So the higher the mileage goes up, the higher the variables go up, but the fixed costs are still the same no matter what. So your fixed cost as a percentage becomes less and less the further you go. Well, I consistently run 12 to 14,000 miles in this truck for 3 years. So, like, I know what's possible. It's just up to your driver, but the loads are there, the dispatch is there. There's hang-ups getting back to the border. Like right now, I'm sitting there waiting on a load, and the last load was freaking nightmare. So, I mean, it's trucking. You're going to earn it. It is truck driving. I mean, if you know, you know. If you got a 2-year driver that you're considering putting in a truck, yeah, they'll explain it to you, Some days it is pull your hair out. Why am I here? Yeah. F this. Screw you guys, I'm going home. Type of deal. And then other days, like, it's just going so good that you get a fat check, and like you're looking at the mountains and stuff. It's like, I can't believe this is so good. Like, I've witnessed to 2 people give away a Bible today. Like today. Bought a guy, I bought coffee, but he was getting something out of the fountain drink or whatever. And, like, the witness had so much power. Because, like, you could tell, like, nobody had ever bought this dude a cup of coffee. This dude had never talked to a random dude, you know what I mean? And just been like, hey, man, this, what's up? Blah, 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 this, that, or whatever. We both walk up there. We're chopping it up, talking about Jesus. Hit the cashier with the Jesus jug. Hey, ring all this up. Just ring all this up. Oh, no, that's all right. Oh, I got you, man. Yeah, ring it up. Ring it up. It's all good. It was $3. No, it was $2.40. Well, it was $2.40, and then I bought 2 bananas here. So I've spent $5 today. You know what I mean? And totally encourage this dude to, live for Jesus or whatever. Read the Bible. So there's days like that. And that's the point of this deal. You know what I mean? It's like, the money and everything's all right, but having people out here, if I can influence people that, maybe you're in a spot where you can't go drive a truck, but you need some income type of deal, right? So, you can be the investor in this deal. It's one of the best opportunities. I've never seen nothing like it. It's the greatest opportunity in the world. I ain't saying that, but you definitely, if you know a driver, and then and you can talk to Lapini and them, because the trucks on the border cost a lot less, for real. A $70,000 truck at Aero Trucking in Dallas, Texas, the exact same truck you can buy in McAllen, Texas, for $70 in Dallas, exact same truck, same exact truck, same mileage, color, motor, transmission, everything. Exact duplicate. Probably came off the factory side by side. 40 grand. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And it's because all those people down there in that location are losing their business because their drivers don't speak English. So it's better for them to sell this truck at $40,000 to get out of the business right now until they can find a driver that speaks English. So here you are up here, somewhere USA, and you got this opportunity, maybe you can pull a little credit or got some cash later out, whatever like that. Buy this truck. Here's this management system. Here's this person that you know is a good driver, right? Put it together, and you just sit back and collect. They got maintenance and everything. They got maintenance program. They got the shop. You can look on my video here. You can see the shop. They get discounts on tires, a whole 9 yards. It's you can glean about 35 cents, and you do about, well, for simple math, it's 12,000. But you say it's you've had problems or whatever. 10,000 miles. A month of 4 weeks, 4 into 12 is 3,000 miles. That's what I've been averaging for 3 years. Okay, but let's just say it's 10 for some reason. For the whole freaking year, problem after problem, whatever, delays. Okay, so at 35 cents at 10,000 miles, you move that decimal point over 2 places. That's 3 or is it 3,500? That's, what would that be? 10,000. It's 4 zeros minus 2. That would be 2 and 3. Yeah, that's $3,500. That's $3,500. Okay. How much? What's your bills? Well, how much does it cost you to live where you live right now? You see what I'm saying? But you got to have that money to buy that truck, and then you got to have that opportunity. Well, the trucks break. Okay, so if the truck breaks down, you got to have credit or cash to, I would say 20,000 will do it. You know what I mean? So if you bought at 40 and you had 20, and then you got, John Doe trucker that you've known for a long time to drive the truck, you can put it together and it would work. That would work. There is some risk in it. You might lose $60,000, say the truck goes bad or whatever. And then the other thing that's out here is wrecking the truck. Okay, so if you wreck that truck and it says Unimax on the door, yeah, you own that truck. You think they ain't going to fight to keep their name clear? So when you lease on the authority has these things called attorneys, right? So you get out here and you squish a Honda Civic, they sue you for $12 million. You want to make sure your LLC is, set up. It's got your thing. And then you want to set up a management company. Okay. And now the management company is managing your truck. And then also, doing the, and then your management company leases on to Unimax. So the truck wrecks, that's this entity. And then it's managed by this entity. And then you're the executor of this entity that gets paid by Unimax over here. So everybody, you got these layers that's keeping them away from you where they can't come take your house. You know what I mean? So smash the Honda, this entity, this LLC, it goes out of business. That's who they would sue initially. So then they'd go after the authority. Okay, so the authority would be Unimax. They're going to fight them tooth and nail, whatever like that. And then if that goes bad and they come back on you, who Unimax is paying, which would be the management company, the management company is a separate entity that can be placed into a trust, and the trust doesn't have to have a name. And then you can glean the money off of that and pay yourself. And then do your, capital gains tax and all that kind of stuff into your personal. So you wreck the truck, they can't take your house. You want to talk to a professional about that? That's the gist. This whole thing is, Everything I'm saying on here, this is a overview. Okay, the reason why it makes sense is the location, the Mexican border. How many Mexicans drive the truck that can't speak English? Half. Okay, Unimex has probably 13 warehouses. They got 2 warehouses. I guarantee you they're as big as a First Form outfit. For real. Like I drove past First Form up there in Seattle and seeing their warehouse, and it's like 370,000 square foot or whatever. Over there in Laredo, the Pinnacle. Like when you're coming into Laredo, you'll see the truck stops on either side. And the building right back here like this that's been there for 25 years, it's got a giant Unimex on that. Unimex is it started out as a subsidiary of Continental Tires. You remember the Uta Royal tires? Well, this is Unimex. It's Continental because they took the tires all across the American continent. So they've been doing international freight like Continental tires, like Continental, Michelin, Goodyear. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the biggest company you never heard of. You heard of it, but you didn't know. And this is like the private fleet, and this is like a fleet within the fleet. And you're operating you can buy the equipment, and then put an operator in the equipment. Okay, and then it's super basic because the whole business model is they don't have to take the freight out of the trailer. They just send the trailer to Mexico. So if I drop it, Jose hooks it, takes it to Mexico. I drop this one here. I hook up to this other one that Jose brought yesterday. I pull in. 30 minutes later, I pull out. I'm not down there messing around for 2 days messing with this stuff. If I have a breakdown, if I need to, I got to check engine light or whatever. Pull in there, say, hey, I got to check engine light, this, that, the other, blah, blah. They check it out. I say, hey, I need a different truck for a week. Boom, I drive a different truck. Is it a piece of shit? I hate driving it? Yeah, of course. Of course. I'm a fat truck driver. I'm going to complain about everything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, really, this is reality. You know what I mean? It's definitely a thing. If I had, there's 2 people I talked to that had 7 trucks, and yeah, they're doing great. They do not drive a truck. They do not go to an office every day. None of that kind of stuff. They're in contact probably electronically 5 days out of the month. Once every 90 days, they're going over everything in an office setting once every 90 days. Probably, I'm gonna say 3 days a month. They're spending 4 hours each day in an office handling their business. That's about how long the due diligence takes. They got right now. There's a whole dispatch trying to find me a load, and then they gotta send me to get it, then go get it, and do the rate con, set up the contract to move the freight, and then collect on the back side. They got to be able to do all that. They got to keep all this whole thing in compliance and all that kind of stuff. Keep the right stickers on the vehicle and the tag and the compliance safety book. You know what I mean? They got this whole thing right here. I mean, this is not a. It's ridiculous is what it is. So, this just goes on and on with page after page after page after page. You know what I mean? Like the International Fuel Agreement. You know what I'm saying? Department of Revenue, Independent Contractor Agreement Forms, Samsara. Here's a picture of the tag. Driver's daily logs, loose leaf logs, accident checklist. We got fuses. We got the cab card. We got certificate of liability insurance, certificate of commercial freight insurance, title application receipt, vehicle inspection connection, authorities. We got the schedule of heavy highway vehicles. This has got all the trailers for the whole entire company. It's 3 pages long. There's a few, I mean, just like your compliance. You know how much back office it takes to have this book? Like, you go down there and you send in your paperwork, right? You can take a truck, lease on. They're going to put they got people that do that. You know how much it costs to have an office lady, and then that office lady knows how to do all that. And then, so you got 48 states with different laws in every state. Like, I mean, just doing your taxes in Kentucky, it has this whole extra thing. You know what I mean? You got to have this extra number and permitting and all this kind of stuff to go in and out of Oregon. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, okay, now what if you're going to go to Canada? What if you're going to go to Mexico? What if your load came in on with a boat docked in Guatemala and came across all the borders to get to Texas, and then you hook onto it and you're going to take this thing to Ontario, Canada? What kind of paperwork do you need? How many different pieces of paper? And what kind of tariffs? Who's paying what? What kind of stickers? Blah, blah, blah. All, they know how to do all this. I don't have to do none of that stuff. I don't have to do none of that stuff. I get stuff. Sometimes we'll get that rubber stuff. I mean, it starts out a tree growing in Vietnam. You know what I mean? And then, you know what I mean? And I'm driving. To me, it's a rubber washer. You know what I mean? And they're going to use that as a gasket piece in an air conditioner or whatever. And this stupid thing will get you all wigged out. You're like, oh man, what if it's the cartel and there's some kind of contraband? It's like, no, it's rubber washers. Rubber comes from rubber trees. We fought the Vietnamese War to secure tires. That's a reality. You know what I mean? It ain't this big old, whatever. Anyways, that's the opportunity. You know what I mean? So if I don't have the overhead of running my own business, you know what I mean? And I set up my LLC and I set up my management company. Now my management company can also rent out my apartment. My management company can also hire somebody to watch my cows. So as I'm making money off this deal, I could buy a field next to a rancher and say, hey, rancher guy, while you're out there checking your cows, will you check my cows and I will pay you to do that? You see what I'm saying? So now this guy, be like, hey, I'm covering your bills. So you got some jackass in the family. Say, hey, I know you're freshly, sober, blah, 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 whatever. I'll put you a trailer house out here on this 40 acres. You watch these cows and stuff like that, and I'll let you drive that Chevy truck right there. Type of deal. You see what I'm saying? And then you buy the truck via the farm. Okay, so now when you go to pay taxes on this truck that you lease on to Unimex and put a driver in, you actually bought the truck to haul your cows back and forth to town. Okay, your farm can lose money every year. So when it comes every quarter, when you're about to pay taxes on this truck that you're gleaning 35 cents, so you're 3,500, you got that 3 times, so you got 10 grand. You fix that to cough up, $5,000 or whatever else like that. Go buy a tractor. Bring that profit level back down to that quarter. That profit was $65. I only made $65. Well, I had to buy a tire for the truck and had to get a brush hog for the deal, and had to pay Jimmy to fix the fence. Whatever. Pencil whip that summage. You want to get it down? Just think about punting in the NFL football game. The goal, and then you got your yard lines and everything. All right, so you made 100 yards. All right, and Uncle Sam's going to tax you, so you want to punt the ball. So you made 100. You want to punt the ball, which is spending money on equipment and real estate. And you want to get that all the way down between the goal. If you hit the goal line, that's a touchback. That's a audit flag, unless you're a farm. Farm can lose money every year. So you can kick it all the way to a touchback without an audit. Well, you'll probably still get audited, but you'll pass the audit if you own a farm. Okay, so you want to get it down there between the about the 10 to the 5 yard line. You know what I mean? So I made $100,000, but I spent $95,000 doing it. In between my depreciating assets and my depreciating home, you know, as soon as you buy the farm with a farmhouse on it, that house depreciates on a 30-year cycle. Doesn't matter what it's worth. You know what I mean? Like if it's worth $30,000, you can write off $1,000 every year for simple numbers. So get with the actual tax professional, because this is real stuff. This is real stuff. Like you under our current system of governance, if you're paying taxes, you're doing something wrong. Like for real. Donald Trump came out there. He was arguing and debating Hillary Clinton, and he dropped the bag. He's like people you work for don't pay taxes either. Everybody acts like it's this big, you know, whatever type of deal. But I'm telling you right now, you start buying this stuff, and then they have this deal where you can do an open-ended mortgage. So you get this, and then you buy this land and buy this equipment, do this, do that, do this, do that. And you keep growing over time. 15, 30 years down the road, you got all this stuff under management. And then you can leverage that stuff. So if I'm going to pull a nail out, and all I got's a claw hammer and it's stuck, and it's a big nail, I might want to get a crowbar. You know what I mean? If I'm trying to bust a nut loose, I might want to put a piece of pipe on the end of the breaker bar, making it longer to increase my leverage. That's all I'm talking about here. That's all I'm talking about. That's all I'm talking about. And what this is, this opportunity, you know, buy the truck, put the driver in it, use the profits of that as investment money. The whole thing is just all investment money. I let it build back on itself time after time after time till you got 7 trucks. Okay? When you buy a truck, you buy one, then you think, buy another. But you want to do odd numbers. You go from 1 truck to 3 trucks. And then after that, you can add truck after truck after truck. When you want to top out at 7, when you get above 7 under management, you have this thing called no sleep and deal with too many problems. Okay, because I mean, more money, more problems, right? So at 7, well, on your way to 7, be, you know, with that being passive, the whole entire time, you should be all about farm. All about farm. And then you want to live in Texas and farm in Oklahoma because of taxes. There's no income tax in Texas. You can make $1 million, never pay Texas a dime on that $1 million. You have to pay the Fed. So you beat the Fed because the thing's actually, you know, my residence is here, but my actual farm is across the river in Oklahoma. Across the river in Oklahoma, freaking taxes on the farm, $1,700. House in Texas, $7,000 property tax. So it kind of is what it is. You want to make sure your driver has a Texas CDL. The Texas CDL lasts 10 years, and they won't have to pay no taxes on their stuff. You can live wherever you want. It's worth. I mean, if I had to rent an apartment in Texas long enough to get the license, and then go back to living wherever, it's no big deal. Like when you get a ticket, the cop will literally say, "Do you live at this address on your license?" And half the people, 90% of the people are like, no. And then they give them their mailing address because it could be different. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing. And I'm making this way too long. So that's the reason that makes sense is the location, Mexican border, the timing. Spanish speakers can't drive no more. That's a big deal there. Opportunity, the leasing of a truck onto a carrier that takes care of all the back office and has, contracts with LG. You know what I mean? I hold a lot of TVs, refrigerators, and appliances. That's all LG. And then tires. And then, all things rubber. And then they got a lot of contracts. They just did a contract to haul water from Dallas to get the trucks back to the border with Niagara. And I went over there. And I called in. I said, man, there's several Unimex trucks here. They said, yeah, we booked 47 loads here in the next 2 days. 47 semi-loads of water, taking water to Laredo, Texas. Bottled water from Niagara in Dallas. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever seen a pallet of water. And, yeah, there's like 20 of them in the truck. So, 160 pallets of water moved from Dallas to Laredo, Texas in a 48-hour period. Bro, how much does that cost? You know what I mean? That physical moving of stuff. Okay, now that gets you into your essentials. Okay, like you're always going to be able to sell steaks. If you got it, a truck brought it. This is essential logistics. So you're putting yourself into the essentials. That's recession proof. You know what I mean? If they got to have it and you're essential and your equipment is essential and all this type of stuff, you see what I'm saying? And, yeah, and there again, it's, freaking Texas. So, you can just about have an ox cart in Texas. Some of the oldest terrible equipment comes from Texas. That's not my suggestion. But if you got one laying around, it'd be worth a shot. And that's the other thing, too. Like, if you wanted to be your own man, have your own authority and all that, you can still pull their trailers. They're assets-backed brokerage. So, I see other, different colored trucks, different names on the side all the time pulling these trailers. And they're just doing that to satisfy the contracts. They would rather haul it themselves. There's a lot of them, too. There's a lot. And then out here looking at this, I'm out here in Sparks, Nevada, or whatever else like that. I've talked to about 8 people today. It's about half that can speak English. It's about half. Anyway, Rocky, I'm going to get off here. Go get them.